No. Wait. I just made the perfect decision. I am a genius. Brilliant. So let me grab the book. So ready, set, go. What's it gonna be? Hi everyone and welcome to another reading vlog. For this one in particular, I've decided to let a spinner wheel choose the books that I will be reading for the next week. So at the moment I'm currently unwell. I feel like I've got the sorest throat and it actually like hurts to talk. So I'm just going to quickly try and get this intro done as fast as possible. So I'm just going to jump straight into my first spin. And I should probably tell you what the books I've got are. So these are the stack of books on my spinner wheel. I've got Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands, Throne of Secrets, Collide, Enchantra, Rewind It Back, and The Hazing Game. These three are on my July TBR. The top three are not, but they're books I'm really interested in reading. So they are the books I'm going to be starting off this reading vlog with, but as I read them, I'll be replacing the book I've read with a new book. So now I'm just going to jump into the first spin. Here is my spinner wheel. Oh, the brightness is too high. Let me fix it. Here is my spinner wheel, and we'll just do the first spin. Has it finished? No. Has it finished? No. Wait. Okay, I'm finally reading it. I will be reading The Hazing Game by Sally Thorne. This has been on my TBR shelf for years, so the fact I'm reading it is probably a good thing because I wouldn't have picked it up otherwise if not for this video. So this will be my first read of this vlog. So I finished The Hazing Game by Sally Thorne this morning, and it actually took me much longer than I was expecting. Because, as I said in my last update, I'm currently sick, which has made reading and concentrating extremely difficult. And, like, I'm still sick, don't get me wrong. I still feel terrible, but nowhere near as bad as I did 2 days ago because my throat is not killing me anymore. And now it's just more like a head cold, which is fine. I can deal with it, and a cough like that is manageable. But the sore throat was horrific. So the fact that I'm finally over that makes me so happy, but I'm still sick. So I've just been taking it easy. And I was actually meant to have an exam today, but that was pushed back because I got special considerations and they said, yep, I can defer my exam. And I'm like, thank God, because I literally have not studied for it at all. And now I've got a cold. So all the time I was going to prepare for it, I just couldn't. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for The Hazing Game. So this is a contemporary romance novel that is set in an office, and we're following two characters, but it's a single perspective novel. And the main character is Lucy. And ever since she's worked for this company, the other main character, Joshua, has hated her guts. Lucy is like, why does this man hate me so much? And because of that, she hates him back. So these two characters are constantly bickering back and forth. They just do not get along. They're constantly at each other's throats. And then one day a promotion is offered within this company, and both these two characters want this promotion. So as they're fighting to get into this position, they fall in love along the way as they get to spend more time with each other, and Lucy gets to understand Joshua a whole lot more. So overall my rating was a 2.75 out of 5 stars because this was good, don't get me wrong. A 2-star book for me is just average. It's not a bad rating. So a 2.75 is saying it's average. It was good, it was enjoyable, but I didn't love it and there was many elements that didn't really work for me. So that's why I got a 2.75 out of 5 stars, which is disappointing because this has been on my TBR for 5 years now. I saw on my Amazon that I bought it in 2020. So the fact that I managed to finally read this book makes me so happy because it's such a TBR veteran. And I think the thing that really bothered me was reading this novel. It was so clear from the get-go that Joshua didn't hate Lucy. Like, she was so oblivious because Lucy wants to be friends with him and he's like, no, I don't want to be friends. It's like, girl, read the signs. Like, it's so obvious that he's into you. And it would just felt very petty and very childish, the drama. It's like, you two are bickering over nothing, and you could tell that they didn't really hate each other. Like, they just didn't. because Lucy wanted him to like her and Joshua did like her, so it was just a bit like, what's going on? So I didn't really believe in this hating relationship. I was like, why is this book even called The Hating Game? I see no hate. It was just like a misunderstanding and the characters had no communication skills whatsoever. It's like, what's going on? Why can't you talk? You're humans and you're adults. So it's like, just have a conversation. So it was just a bit like stupid and just felt, as I said, childish. However, as we went through the rest of the book and we continued on with this story and they got to know each other and started to trust each other and get along, there were still them elements of miscommunication, but they were starting to learn about each other and learn their cues and see what their body language is saying and how to actually deal with one another, which I really liked. And then one of the scenes towards the end is the reason why this book did not get a 2 stars, because there was just one scene at the end of this book which made me actually really believe in this couple's relationship, because until that point I was like, why did these 2 characters even want to get together? Like, I just didn't see the chemistry. But when we got to the scene at the end and we saw some character development, I really enjoyed it because we saw another side to their relationship. We saw another side to Lucy. But even with that, there was still miscommunication throughout this whole book. And I was like, just talk, please, 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 please. Just talk. That's all I'm after. So it was good. I love how I've just complained, but it was good, but I didn't want to read it. Like, I struggled to get through it. Normally, contemporary romances take me no time at all, but this one I just did not want to pick up, which is also why it got lower than a 3 stars. So, it was good. There was elements I enjoyed. There was a scene where Lucy was sick and Joshua had to look after her, which I really love. Like, when there's a scene where a character's ill and the other protagonist is there looking after them, I love. And we had one of them scenes in The Hating Game, so I really enjoyed that. But for most of the book I was just trying to get through it, and obviously it wasn't that terrible because I managed to finish it. So yeah, this was a 2.75 out of 5 stars. I'm glad I've read it, and that's all I've got to say about The Hating Game. So I think now what I'm going to do is choose my next spin, but I should tell you the book that I've put on this list. So the book I'm replacing The Hating Game with is The Things We Water by Marina Zapata. I had to put it on this list. When I remembered I had it, because Out of Sight, Out of Mind, I was like, this is the perfect book to replace The Hating Game with, because it's another contemporary romance, and Marina Zapata is one of my favourite romance authors of all time, and I think this is the only release from her that I haven't read yet, just because it only came out like a month or 2 ago. So this is the book that is replacing The Hating Game. So now let's do a spin and see what book I'll be reading. So we'll get the spinner wheel up. Here it is again, and obviously I've replaced The Hating Games with The Things We Water, so let's just give it a spin. Okay, I'm spinning it. Is it spinning? No, surely not. I think I'm going to re-spin it because that seems a bit rigged. Like, it just does. So we'll do it again. Or should I read The Things We Water? No, I think I need to respin it because we've just landed on orange. So we'll respin it. Like, I don't know how accurate these spinner wheels actually are. Okay, is it done? Oh, that's better. Yes! I just made the perfect decision. I am a genius. Brilliant. So let me grab the book. So the next book I'll be reading is Collide, obviously. This was by Belle Cabra. This is actually on my July TBR, which is so good that I've respun the wheel because I landed on a character card in my TBR game called One Piece Pick a Book. I'll link it up above if you're interested. But the character I landed on was Lucky Roo, and that is to read a book with green on the cover. This is clearly green. There's green on the back. It's just a green book. So I'm so glad a book of my July TBR was chosen by the spinner wheel. this afternoon I finished reading Collide by Belle Cabra, and this is just a quick little sports romance where we're following a character called Summer who is applying to get into graduate programs when her professor gives her an ultimatum. She said, you can either find a new professor or your final report has to be on hockey, which is a sport Summer absolutely hates for personal reasons, which you find out as you read the book. And because of this ultimatum, she decides to go along with it, but for that she needs help by hockey players, which is where she meets Aiden, who is the other main protagonist of this book, and he is the captain of this team. So then them two are forced together because Aiden is also the captain of the hockey team, and because he's taken the fall for a party that went down, them two are forced to work together because his coach is like, you have to help Summer out. So then these two end up working on this paper together, but they're very different personality types. So as they're spending more time together, a friendship starts to develop, and then by the end of the book they're in love, which is obvious because it's a romance novel. My final rating on this book is a 3 out of 5 stars because this was much better than The Hating Game, but it was still not a romance I'm obsessed with. And I think the reason why is because I didn't really care about Summer and Aiden falling in love. I didn't care about their relationship dynamic. I didn't care about the tension between them two. I just didn't care. And this does not feel like a memorable book at all. It feels like one that I will read and then within a month or two I will have forgotten everything that's happened in it, because I just, as I said, did not care about this story, did not care about these characters. I was more invested in the side characters, which you don't really want with a romance novel because you want to be obsessed with the main couple. And that is the reason why I read romances, is getting to see the chemistry between the two main characters, seeing how their relationships develop and how they get to know one another. So the fact that we didn't get that in this book was just very disappointing for me. Like, we obviously got it, but it was just not done in a way which I absolutely adored. And because of that, I just wasn't obsessed with it. But I think my favourite character was one called Kian. He definitely saved the book for me. If I didn't have him as a character, I feel like I would have DNF'd this book, because this just felt like such a bland book when I was reading it. I was bored. I just wanted it to be over. But it wasn't like horrific. I would be interested in reading more books by this author because there are certain characters which I'm excited to see their storylines. So I'm really hoping we see one from Kian. But I don't know if we'll be getting that. I'm just hoping we will, because this is the first book in a series of interconnected standalones. So I will give them a chance, because when I read books, especially with romances, if I don't like the first book, I'm always willing to give the second one a chance, because I might love the second one, because I feel like it's not the author's writing that was bad, so I feel like I could have the potential to enjoy another one of her works, because that has happened to me so many times previously. Like, the first example that comes to mind is the Twisted Love series by Anna Huang. I did not enjoy Twisted Love at all. Like, I was so bored, but Twisted Lives I loved to bits, so I'm really hoping that will be the same case with Belle Cabra's works. So this one was just a bit of a flop. I don't feel like I need to keep this edition. I might end up unhauling it. I'm not certain yet. I think I'll wait to see how I feel about the rest of the books, but I'm not in any rush to get to them. I probably won't buy them anytime soon, and if my library's got them, I might try to borrow them. But I've got so many books on my TBR that I don't feel like the rest of these books are going to be a priority. But I could end up being wrong in saying that, because one day I might just want to pick up the sequel, so we'll have to wait and see what will happen, and if I pick up the sequel, and if I do, when that will be. So that's what I'm going to say about Collide. And now it's time for the next spin. So let me get my spinner wheel up again. And the book I'm replacing Collide with is Fate of the Sun King by Nisha J. Tully. This is the third book in the Artifacts of Arenos. I don't know how to say that exactly. And this is just a fantasy romance series where I read the first book, it was good. Then I read the second book, and since reading that second book, I've wanted to continue on with this series since. So it's why I've put it on this TBR, because I borrowed it from the library. because I actually don't own any of these books yet. So because of that, I've only got a 3-week period to read this book. So that's why I've decided to put this on the spinner wheel. So I've got my spinner wheel here, and I've replaced Collide with Fate of the Sun King. So we'll now just do the first spin, and let me press it and then I'll show you guys. So ready, set, go. What's it gonna be? Is it green? Is that purple? Okay. I'm happy with that. We didn't get green again and we didn't get orange again. Wait, why? Oh my god, I keep thinking green was one of the colours that was chosen, but it was yellow. So, that's not important. The book I'll now be reading is Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. I don't know if this is going to be the last book of this reading vlog, so we'll just have to wait and see. Yesterday I finished reading Enchantra by Kaylee Smith, and I'm not going to give you guys a summary of this book because I feel like it's best not to know about this book because it spoils parts of the first book. So I feel like this is the series where you very much need to read them in order, even though it's a series of interconnected standalones. They're one of them interconnected standalone series where you should read them in order. So even though we're following different characters, this story really built off some of the ideas and the themes and some of the character storylines from the first book. So going into this book without reading the first one might be a bit confusing. So I feel like this is also going to be very difficult to explain my thoughts because I don't want to spoil anything, obviously. So this was the best book of this reading vlog, hands down. It almost got a 5 stars. It was so close to being a new favourite book of mine. It was just the thing that let me down was the ending. There was the way this story wrapped up. I felt like there was loose threads which I really wanted to see because it was mainly in regards to the side characters. I feel like I didn't get the closure I needed to really feel satisfied by the ending of this book. So it was a very good book. This was much better in my opinion than Phantasma. I love this book so much more. So the 2 main characters we're following in this book I absolutely adored. I loved the romance that developed between them 2, but I liked one of the main characters, but the male lead character was my absolute favourite between the 2. I just thought he was so brilliantly written. He was so there for the female lead, and I just loved his character, which made me like this book a whole lot more. Because the female lead I didn't love to bits. She was okay, but she's not like a new favourite character of mine. Whereas the male lead like really stood out to me, and I just really adored him as a character. But my favourite element of this book with the characters is the family dynamics. I am such a sucker for a good family dynamic, and this book had that. It was just the way this family dynamic was done was so well done, and I really just want to be able to spoil this book so badly so that I can get my proper thoughts across, but I'm trying so hard not to spoil the first book. But I loved it. So I think I'm going to leave my final thoughts on Enchantra there, just because, as I keep saying, I don't want to go into spoiler territory, so this is all we're going to get from me, which is a bit upsetting because I wanted to give you more in-depth thoughts. So Enchantra was definitely the last book of this reading vlog because I've got another reading vlog in mind, which I've actually already started. But for me to be able to do that, I really wanted to wrap up this reading vlog. So that's why we're coming to a closure of this video. So the 3 books I managed to read was The Hating Game, Collide, and Enchantra. One of these was on my July TBR, which was Collide. And the prompt, I don't have the card on me, but it was to read a book with a green cover. And I did that by reading this book. But I was very happy that these books were chosen because The Hating Game has been on my TBR forever, like so long now. It's been 5 years because I bought it in 2020. Collide I bought last year, or was it this year? I bought it sometime over the past year or 2, and I've wanted to read it. And then Enchantra was a new release that I was super hyped for because I read Phantasma at the start of this year and loved it so much, so I wanted to dive into this sequel basically as soon as I could. So I'm so happy I finally managed to get to it. And yeah, these were the books that the spinner wheels chose for me, and I love how I read them in order of my favorites, because I started off with The Hating Game, which is my least favorite, and then my final book of the reading vlog was was Enchantra, and that was my favorite book of this whole video. So these are my pretty books. I love them. I think though I will be unhauling The Hating Game. I don't think I need to keep this book by Sally Fawn because I just wasn't obsessed with it. So that book's probably going to be unhauled. And then Collide, I'm uncertain about yet. I think I'm going to wait to read the second book before I decide what I want to do with it. Whereas Enchantra, there is no way that this book is getting unhauled. I loved it too much. I feel like I'm going to continue to think about it. I just really had a good time with it. It was just brilliantly done. So yeah, they were the 3 books I've read. And now I'm just going to wrap this video up by saying I hope to see you next time, and bye.